Hello everyone, welcome back. Recently, there's been a lot of discussion surrounding the book Alchemized by SenLin Yu. I did cover a similar discussion around these traditionally published Harry Potter fanfiction books, which Alchemized is, and you can watch that video here. We touched briefly on Alchemized in that video, but today it's all about Alchemized. If you haven't heard of Alchemized, let me catch you up really quickly. Alchemized began life as a popular Harry Potter fan fiction titled Manacled, which was part of like the Hermione genre. So basically anything romanticizing or involving Draco Malfoy and Hermione Granger. Over time, Manacled became extremely popular online with millions of readers and many dedicated fans. But because of its popularity, they decided to take Manacled offline, remove it from AO3, which is like the fan fiction website that it was on, or that it was first platformed on, and rework it into an original novel, Alchemized. Now, there are many different discussions happening online at the moment. The main one is, should you read Alchemized if you support trans right and condemn the moldy mansion lady? Now, full disclosure, I have not read Manacled or Alchemized, and I won't be. But we're taking a look at a variety of views on the work and the way that it could be indirectly putting money into that TERF's pocket, and how like newsletters and many readers are using Harry Potter to promote Alchemized, even though apparently it no longer is Hermione fanfiction. Apparently, Alchemized is completely reworked from Manacled, although I guess it has to be, right? Like, to an extent, it has to be, because you can't use like characters and settings from like Harry Potter, right? Not only that, they removed some plot elements that were like heavily borrowed from The Handmaid's Tale, I believe it was. For example, apparently there was like a surrogate storyline, and to avoid copyright issues, this has been removed too. Regardless of how much the new work has been changed from its original fan fiction, it's still fan fiction of Harry Potter in many people's eyes. It doesn't help that all over social media, people are using images of Hermione and Draco, audio from Manacled, or some, I'll show you some examples, but there's an audio I keep hearing. Even people telling other people in comments that you need to read Manacled and Harry Potter first before reading Alchemized. A quick jumping off point here, but did you watch my video about Romance Con and like all the authors that pulled out? Firstly, because Julie Soto was attending and had just traditionally published their book Rose in Chains, another Hermione fanfic. Then everyone found out that the management company running Romance Con, Mischief Management, also had ties to LeakyCon, which is a well-known Harry Potter convention. Authors and attendees alike did not want anything to do with either of these things and pulled out. A lot of the attendees demanded like refunds. You can watch it all here, I'll link it for you. But what interests me about this situation is, why is Alchemized so different? Like, why the uproar about Rose in Chains by Julie Soto, and what's the other one? The Irresistible Urge to Fulfill Your Enemy by Bridget Knightley. Yeah, everyone kind of like forgot their morals and what they stood for the moment Alchemized was released. It's kind of bizarre. I do find it hard to articulate like what I want to say and like how I feel about the situation, but this TikTok by Mari sums it up really well.
Alchemized is the reskinned version of the fanfiction Manacled. I think that when J.K. Rowling first kind of went mask off, the common stance was that it was bad to monetarily support J.K. Rowling, but that fans could still participate in Harry Potter through the fandom, through fanfiction. What I and many others have been saying more recently is that J.K. Rowling's harm is so material that keeping her relevant, keeping her in the cultural consciousness, keeping her IP relevant, keeping her in positions where she continues to be able to launch products and reimagine her work and profit off of all of those things, a profit that she then turns around and invests into harming trans people and other communities. We've crossed the line here. You cannot both say that you care about the harm that she's causing and the people that she has caused harm to, and continue to participate and promote works that are even associated with her that continue to keep her relevant. That has been the big discussion this year, as there have been 3 major Hermione and Draco pairing fan fictions that have been reskinned in order to traditionally publish. What that means is that publishing is signing these fan fiction writers into a traditional publishing deal in order to take their fan fiction and strip it of the intellectual property in order to kind of remake it and reimagine it as its own thing. Rose in Chains and The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy both caught a lot of backlash, especially because the break between the fanfiction and the reskin was not clean. Both of those authors and the publishers were using the original IP, were using Harry Potter in order to promote these works. And sure, there were still people who were not interested, who are prioritizing their own enjoyment, who don't care about the other people in the community, who are misusing terms like separation of art and artist, who don't think it matters at all that it is connected to Harry Potter and being promoted with Harry Potter. But there was a certain amount of backlash that to me has been really interesting to see shift with the release of Alchemized. I don't know if that is because SenLin Yu is non-binary. I don't know if that is just because people really, really loved Manacled. I don't know what it is, but it is spooky. It has been spooky on my FYP to see people holding up Alchemized and kind of parroting a lot of like company lines here. I don't know if an email went out or if they're all just copying each other, but it became really, really strange to see everybody saying the same exact things about this book. First, this is a dark fantasy, okay? It's not romance. It's not romanticized. I heard it's not romanticized so many times. They're emphasizing, right, that this is dark. This is dark. So if you have any critiques about the content of the work, that they can say, well, it's dark fantasy. And if you didn't want to read it, you didn't have to, right? Not really realizing that dark fantasy is just kind of a descriptor or a subgenre. It does not protect the work from being criticized for the elements that it includes and for the messages that they portray. Then we see a lot of like gaslighting in terms of trying to separate this from its Harry Potter roots. And I think that's really interesting because that has been a recent shift, because up until like a few weeks ago, SenLin Yu was also using Harry Potter or talking about this coming from Manacled in ways that you can tell they're really trying to like break away from or sanitize from their presence. And the fans are doing the same thing, right? This is different than Manacled. You don't have to read Manacled. Like really trying to separate it in a way that is a response to the backlash, but is also not being very, I think, transparent about like what is happening here and feels a little bit like gaslighting. And so we've reached this point where like more and more people are feeling really comfortable holding up Alchemized and saying it has nothing to do with Harry Potter and justifying to themselves why this is okay. And so we've created this vacuum because the people who still don't want to support this work for very good reasons are going to not support this work. And here's the thing with reskins is that to me, pulling the IP out of the work is like pulling the foundation or trying to pull the foundation out of the house. And what's happened, especially in these fantasy works that I've read that are reskinned, is that you get this kind of world building that just feels like replacing elements from the original, right? We're getting all of this information about vivimancy and alchemy and all of this stuff, but it's just words. They're just terms that are thrown out with no real basis outside of just being like, here's a term. And there's absolutely no way that this is 1,000 pages that earns it. There's absolutely no way that like this style of world building really signals that this is a world that is standing on its own. And I think you as a reader who is probably hearing all of this gushing about Alchemized and how it's super not Harry Potter and super not the same as Manacled, you should know that.
I think that's the main issue I'm feeling, is it feels like we're just keeping the turf and their IP relevant. Also, Mari, I'm so sorry if I'm saying it wrong. Mari does say about the gaslighting of people trying to separate this from Harry Potter, it's Harry Potter roots, right? But honest to God, all over my For You page, I've seen so many TikToks and comments showing like the opposite. So here are some TikToks I've come across with Harry Potter elements, let's say. Now, I absolutely could be reading into this like way too much. Absolutely. Does this make sense? If you're trying to separate the two, then why do you need to use that stuff? Why do you need to use like certain audio? Why do you need to like show certain pictures? Why do you need to use the term like Hermione? Because it's not Hermione fanfiction anymore, right? It's completely reworked, right? This is the one that has like an audio and I don't know where it's from, but is it from Manacled perhaps?
What made you think that I would ever allow a Death Eater into your heart, for fuck's sake? Hermione, don't look at him. Look at me. Hermione, look at me.
No hate to the content creators, but they probably don't realize what they're using or doing. But that audio was using Hermione, but it's alchemized. It's nothing to do. It's right. It's nothing to do with Harry Potter, apparently. Then this one, I miss Manacled, I miss Hermione and Draco, whilst holding Alchemized. This one, use me Granger, I can take it. So we're talking about Hermione Granger again, but they're also talking about Alchemized. This one, when you thought you read all the newly published Hermione inspired books, but I thought they were all trying to distance themselves from Harry Potter fan fiction. Someone made this fan edit of pictures from Manacled, I think, but also from just films that Emma Watson is in, because she was Hermione Granger. This one, discovering fanfic Draco Malfoy, picture of Tom Felton, but they're reading Alchemized. Like, that was just like a really quick couple that I grabbed now, but I've seen so many more of people using Harry Potter in their content to push Alchemized, but yeah, it's not Harry Potter fan fiction according to them also. To be fair, it's not even just content creators. Like, look at these articles that I got. This one's from The Guardian. The fan fiction written on a notes app that became the bestseller. And then you got SenLin Yu, debut started life as Harry Potter fan fiction. I mean, they're not doing any favors. Again, an adapted Harry Potter fanfic is the season's most anticipated novel, but it's not in your face about Harry Potter fan fiction, mentioning Manacled. Again, Business Insider, Harry Potter fan fiction, Manacled. Like, it's not being separated. Harry Potter fanfic, Manacled, and it just goes on and on. Like, it just doesn't stop. It's like that's the only way you can sell this is as Harry Potter fanfiction, which is keeping it super fucking relevant in everyone, like the IP relevant in everyone's minds. And like this comment here on a BookTokers video that I was watching, they said like it's Harry Potter fanfiction, right? Someone's like, it was HP fanfiction. The new book is not set in that world. The characters are not from the world. The magic system is not similar. It's not J.K. Rowling and the author did not get monetary compensation. Honey, everything I'm seeing says otherwise, if I'm honest. Like, everyone is using it as marketing. And then, like, rightly so, they say it is marketed as being former HP fanfic. It is connected to HP. Alchemized would not exist without Manacled, and Manacled would not exist without HP. So they're all connected. And again, on another BookTokers video, I saw this. Do I need to read Harry Potter to read Manacled or Alchemized? Yes, you will need to know Harry Potter to read Manacled. Alchemized, you do not. So again, indirectly promoting Harry Potter books. If you buy them secondhand, sure, fine. But again, promoting Harry Potter to read Manacled, but people only want to read Manacled because of Alchemized, and it's just it's like a vicious circle. More comments. I didn't find these, but BookToker Grey did. So here we've got people saying JKR isn't benefiting from this. This one reads, I'm reading the Harry Potter books just so I can read Manacled. This is a great time to be alive. I've never read any of the Harry Potter books. Would I still be able to enjoy Manacled? And then someone said, I ended up giving in and reading all 6 books just so I could read Manacled. There are some die-hard Manacled fans out there, and there's this worry that part of Manacled's appeal was knowing the Harry Potter universe. So like the lore, the characters and the dynamics, that kind of stuff. Without that context, there's speculation about whether Alchemized will still have the same emotional impact or whether it will feel disconnected or like something entirely new. All I can say to that is, isn't that the point? Aren't we not wanting it to have any connection to the Harry Potter universe and its disgusting author? I've heard SenLin Yu's writing is like really good, and I wonder why a completely different book couldn't have been written, like with no ties to Manacled or Harry Potter, like at all. But on the flip side, I can also understand that the publishers may not have even given them like a choice. They're probably like, rewrite Manacled for traditional publishing or nothing. You ain't getting nothing else. I don't know. I mean, I understand then, you know, it's like, just take the deal. Just take the deal. Just get your foot in the door, take the deal, and then you can like continue writing like new original stuff maybe. Although saying that, I'd heard that they write really well. There's a little bit of Mari's video that I'm going to show you now, and it doesn't sound like it's that good. When I say that good, I mean like maybe the writing could do with some work, perhaps.
I've heard so much glowing praise about what a genius this author is and what a good book this is, and it wasn't sitting well with me that I read the first couple of chapters of this and my flabbers were gasted. I am begging, wake the editors up. Wake them up, hire them back, give them more money. What do we have to do? What do we have to do in order to get the editors back and working and the authors listening to the editors and the publishers caring about editing? What What do we have to do? Please, I am begging for somebody, because when I opened this on the first page of the prologue of a 1,000+ page book. This book is over 1,000 pages. And the first page of the prologue has all of this micro repetition where the same words are being used in very close proximity over and over again, where the same idea is being rehashed and repainted. I read this and I said, oh, hell no. There is absolutely no way that this earns its 1,000 pages. There's no way that this earns its 1,000 pages, because I could have cut this prologue to like a paragraph or two, honestly. And it isn't just the prologue. I kept reading, and this keeps happening where the same word is just used again and again. That kind of repetition can be useful. It can be effective. We as humans talk this way. We have a tendency to repeat ourselves or rephrase things for emphasis, or once we get a word in our head, we tend to use it. It happens to me all the time when I'm making videos. So we as humans talk that way. We tend to include stuff like that in our writing. But for the purposes of polished writing and storytelling and craft, this is the kind of thing that you edit out, that you limit, so that when you do use this kind of repetition, it is effective. When you do this over and over down a page, across pages, all it does is create monotony. All it does is pad out a story. I immediately was like, oh hell, oh hell. From there we go on and we get like the most heavy-handed world building that I ever did see, because it happens in the middle of like a torture interrogation. The person who is like torture interrogating is just saying really useful information to our half-gone main female character. It is very strange. It is very stilted. And even the way that the main character is like thinking very useful information while just waking up from stasis and like being in torture doesn't make sense in the context of the story. Part of what a really gifted storyteller is doing is knowing when to insert those elements of world building, is making them feel really natural, even if they happen in dumps, because you can world build that way. You can sort of just dump it on the reader and go from there, or you can weave it in, and both can be effective. And your preferred method of world building when you're reading is your preferred method. I can enjoy both methods. They just need to be well done. And so even when you're sort of dumping world building in this way, knowing how to make it feel effective is a skill that this is absolutely lacking. And I mean, maybe it will calm down. I'm a couple of chapters into 1,000 pages. I don't even know if I'm going to finish this, to be honest with you, because it immediately is a slog. It immediately is a slog.
Another thing I read was that SenLin Yu has asked readers to stop insisting that Manacled must be read before Alchemized. Alchemized is meant to stand on its own terms. But it's a tough one because it comes from fanfic, and I don't know if it will ever not be fanfiction.
Alchemized does not exist without Harry Potter fanfic. It does not exist separate from Harry Potter fanfic, no matter how insistently the publisher or any of the reviewers who got the email from the publisher are trying to gaslight us all into thinking. They are not separate entities. They do not exist without each other. Talking about Alchemized, platforming Alchemized, buying Alchemized is still participating in Harry Potter. Not directly with the fandom. We are outside of the fandom, but we're now in a fun gray area where the fandom is in danger due to all of this nonsense. And I truly do think we're going to look back on this like summer and fall with like all of the Hermione fanfic to published novels of it all and really rue the day. If, of course, money hasn't already changed hands with Rowling and the rights holders of Harry Potter and the publishers of Alchemized, which I'm pretty sure it has.
From my research into like this topic, it does appear like Manacled and Alchemized have this like really cult-like following. I'm not saying it is, it just kind of feels that way. Like everyone's like super passionate and doesn't take any kind of criticism on the work. I find this really similar to when someone has something negative to say about ACOTAR, because they ACOTAR girlies. Yeah. One of the responses to this debate around Alchemized is that they're supporting a queer or like a non-binary author. So it's doing more good than harm, right? But many question, do they read other books by queer or non-binary authors? Or is this just a way to justify to themselves the reading and supporting of Harry Potter fan fiction?
To those of you who are on here saying that you should support Alchemized because it's by a queer author, it's reclaiming the IP, but you've never read another queer book in your life, except maybe like Red, White, and Royal Blue, I fear you're showing your whole ass on the internet. I fear you're a massive fucking hypocrite, and everyone around you can see it.
Another point of contention has been the fact that SenLin Yu has used their AO3 pen name, so rather than a different name or their actual name, and this seems to still be linking them closely with the fanfiction rather than stepping away like they said they wanted to do. SenLin Yu has explicitly stated that they do not want to be associated with Rowling's anti-trans activism. Reading from an article for Bustle, they say, "People misconstrued my participation in fandom space as some kind of endorsement of JKR's anti-trans activism, which, as someone who is non-binary and who realize their identity through fandom communities, is not something I want to be associated with." The article goes on to say that fans passionately debate whether or not fanfiction, which doesn't directly benefit Rowling monetarily, but does encourage a continued engagement with her IP, augments Rowling's reach and wealth. Their greatest hope for Alchemized is that it stands on its own, though Sen is firm about separating Alchemized from Harry Potter. They will forever have a strong allegiance to the fandom, which taught them that when someone's identity, experience, or journey doesn't fit the established narrative, storytelling itself needs to evolve. But is the origin of this work too tainted? Some feel that even though Alchemized is supposed to be a separate piece of work, for many, Manacled will always loom large, and that connection to the Harry Potter IP complicates things. There's a lot of opinions and debates, but I would love to know your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.